Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie begins in 1950, during the Korean War between North and South Korea. Diversionary attacks are launched by General MacArthur in Wonsan, Jumunjin, Kunsan and Jangsari. A day before the Incheon landing, a ship called the Moonsan sets sail towards the beach of Jangsari, carrying 772 student troops. Due to a storm, the ship is going through choppy waves. Myung-jun informs the ship's owner visibility is inadequate. He remarks it is the worst day for his plan, and he should have waited till after the storm. Myung-jun claims they should have arrived earlier, but instead squandered a day at the port. We find the novice student soldiers below deck, mostly puking from seasickness. Ha Ryan predicts seasickness will kill the majority of them before the communists. While Tae is watching him mess with his gun, Ha Ryan tells him he heard his father was a hunter, therefore he must be used to firing a gun. Tae agrees, but believes that shooting an animal is not the same as killing a man. This perplexes Ha Ryan, who feels everyone is an animal in any case. Chan Na-eon admits out loud that the Daegu lad has never ridden a boat, which is why they are unwell. He asks Sung-cheol where he is from, and the other guy replies, Jeonnam-po. It turns out he's a North Korean defector. They fled to South Korea after gangsters took over their family mill. Next, an American diplomat inquires about Maggie's knowledge of the Incheon landing, to which she responds that many journalists are unaware. He says he hopes the communists are less knowledgeable than the correspondents, because if Incheon fails, the US would abandon South Korea. Myung-jun confesses the strategy is for warships and fighter planes to attack first, and then land on the beach. He begs the ship's owner to reconsider his position. If they don't arrive in Jangsari before the sun rises, the battle will be over before it even begins. The ship's owner condemns those in power for deploying inexperienced student soldiers. Maggie is walking with General Stevens, asking for the case of student troops on their way to Jangsari. She questions why the United States is sending children to fight the North Korean army. He informs her 786 American soldiers perished the night before, while attempting to hold the Noktung River line, and he asks her to advise him on who he should send. She is unable to respond, but she does ask if the student soldiers are aware they are on a suicide mission. Moonsan is anchored close to the coast. Myung-jun is still attempting to contact Endicott for assistance, but has received no response. The North Korean army anticipates their arrival, and instantly bombs the ship. The ship jolts, and the student troops are panicking. Some are promptly dispatched, but because the North Koreans anticipated them, they begin to fire. They couldn't keep going, or they'd all perish, so the ship's crew and Sung-cheol volunteer to go to shore, and anchor the ropes, so they could get to Jangsari's beach more easily. As some of the student troops arrive at the shore, they charge and sprint through landmine-infested sand. Some of them get injured by landmines or gunshots. Everything is in disarray. During the onslaught, many of them are killed. Air support arrives, and begins bombing the opposing camp. The next day, Myung-jun directs the special operations team to flank Tae-hoon, while the machine gunner remains on top of the hill. As the rest of the men cover the fire, the 3rd and 4th companies will move for diversion. Tae-sok informs Myung-jun he will take the left side of Tae-hoon, and will not be accompanied by any of the student troops. Chan Na-eon instructs Tae and Sung-cheol to join him, but Ha Ryan volunteers, because he claims to be the best shot and fastest runner during their boot camp. Tae is entrusted with assassinating the machine gunner, while the others cover fire. He kills the machine gunner with a single shot. Tae-sok, in the meantime, murders the second machine gunner, with a stick of dynamite. Myung-jun orders the rest of the battalion to undertake a full attack, once Chan Na-eon signals that all of the machine gunners have been killed. The North Korean soldiers try to flee, but are stopped by the rest of the unit. Those who remain surrender, as the student troops overwhelm them. The high ground has been secured. Everyone returns to shore, to gather their slain comrades, and regain some of their belongings. Sung-cheol comes across and reads a letter. It is revealed that some of the North Korean soldiers were abducted South Korean students, who were compelled to wear the North Korean military uniform. They were escorted to the battleground. Maggie is speaking with Chun Bong about Myung-jun. It is stated that he graduated from the Korean Military Academy, and only worked for troop information and education. Maggie wonders why he was selected to spearhead the attack on Jangsari if that's the case. Chun Bong responds he volunteered after hearing stories from communist prisoners of war. Maggie will continue if the student soldiers complete their training successfully, before being deployed. He now asks Maggie about her article, which she avoids. Instead, she inquires as to how the troops in Jangsari will be supported. He argues if the Incheon landing fails, all will be lost. She accuses him of having no plan to support the attack, and he deflects her charge, blaming Myung-jun if it fails. After repairing the radio, Myung-jun attempts to contact headquarters again at night, but is unsuccessful. Before withdrawing, Chan Na-eon overhears one of the North Korean radio men remark that 2 of their regiments, including 4 tanks, would deploy from Pohang the next day. Instead of waiting for the arriving troops, Myung-jun decides to assault them. To buy time until the evacuation ships come, they will plug a tunnel. They want to install Soviet-made explosives stolen from North Korean soldiers. Back at headquarters, they learn Incheon landing was a success. While everyone is cheering, another soldier reveals that 2 regiments from North Korea's 5th Division Army are on their way to Jangsari. General Stevens informs Maggie that the US Navy did send a ship to Jangsari, after learning of the success of the Incheon landing. However, they returned due to the inclement weather. Maggie observes the people in Jangsari will not endure long. He promises that he'll make sure no one who didn't have to die did on that beach, but it's the best that he can do, given the current situation. Ha Ryan discovers a knife and, on his way to get it, unintentionally stumbles on a landmine. Tae summons Tae-sok, who surmises that it fell when the ground shifted. He urges the other to take a step back, then tells Ha Ryan to take his foot off, so Tae-sok can walk on it. Tae-sok tells Ha Ryan that it's an order, despite his refusal. They make the change. He confesses it was a tank mine, and tells Ha Ryan to transport it. When they get in the tunnel, Myung-jun assigns Tae to be the watch, while the others begin preparing the explosives. Soon, Tae discovers the approaching North Korean battalions, and rushes to warn Myung-jun. Ha Ryan discovers the detonator while evacuating. Tae-sok orders Ha Ryan and the others to leave, so he can fix it himself. With no time to flee, Tae-sok is forced to confront the approaching enemy. He pretends to be leading them to the opposing camp. He comes to a halt near the explosives, and motions for Myung-jun to detonate them, but the other man refuses, until he is out of the way. Tae-sok, upset, turns to the enemies, and begins shooting. Myung-jun is forced to detonate the explosives when Tae-sok is shot and murdered. North Korean soldiers retreat after the explosion, but are quickly fired at by student soldiers. They have no choice but to march ahead, and because the tunnel is so small, the student soldiers swiftly overcome them. Jong-nyu gets injured, and a medic attempts to examine him, but he refuses. Instead, Sung-cheol offers to assist. Man-duk and Jong-nyu are unwilling to face him when he treats Jong-nyu. Man-duk acknowledges Jong-nyu as a female. Her father ordered her to switch with her twin brother, because he was the family's first son after 7 generations. Jong-nyu, on the other hand, rejects this, and says that it was her idea. Sung-cheol begs not to report her. Sung-cheol meets his cousin Jae-pil while looking for food for the rest of the student soldiers. After an emotional reunion, Jae-pil informs the other North Korean soldiers that Sung-cheol and his family have relocated to the south. Sung-cheol accepts, but claims to have returned shortly afterwards. The other North Korean soldiers began to distrust him. Ha Ryan and the others emerge from the shadows, and threaten to kill them if they move. Sung-cheol instructs them not to, because they can't make any noise. They lead the North Korean soldiers, as well as Jae-pil, far into the forest. Ha Ryan has always been envious of Sung-cheol, and accuses him of being a spy, when he advises tying up the North Korean soldiers and leaving them there. Ha Ryan rejects and speculates further about Sung-cheol's loyalty. Ha Ryan threatens to kill Jae-pil, and as everyone is preoccupied, one of the North Korean troops flees. Ha Ryan shoots him, and Jae-pil grabs the gun from him, threatening to murder him as well. Instead, Tae shoots him in the neck. Sung-cheol finally tells them why he enlisted, while mourning Jae-pil. Only he survived when his entire family was bombed on their way to South Korea. He desired vengeance for their deaths. Ha Ryan gives Sung-cheol a potato, as a peace offering. He tells the story of being the 5th of 11 siblings. He was raised by relatives who did not have their own children. He returned when he was 7 years old, but he believes they never liked him, because he was not raised with his siblings. He was handled differently. He aspires to return as a hero, and be treated like family. The next day, the combat ration arrives, and everyone rejoices. Myung-jun warns them that the evacuation ship will arrive the next day, but North Korean forces are also on their way to attack them once more. North Korean soldiers arrive, as planned, while the evacuation ship transporting General Stevens and Maggie is still far from land. Myung-jun fires a flare to alert them. As the student troops sprint to the beach, artillery from the evacuation ship provides cover. Myung-jun contacts them, but they reject him. They're launching landing craft, but this is the closest they can get, so the rest of the survivors will have to swim aboard. North Korean tanks target the student troops fleeing to the shore. Those who are able to board the landing boats are instantly drawn into the ship, as the dock is closing. Myung-jun instructs them not to shut it. Back on land, additional student soldiers are fleeing, while being shot at. Myung-jun rushes to the bridge, and requests the dock be reopened. The ship captain refuses, because the tide is ebbing and they must depart immediately. Chan Nyeon orders all student soldiers to flee, but the cadres remain, and attempt to cover fire. Ha Ryan returns to assist the cadres, handing Sung-pil a note, addressed to his family. Sung-pil also decides to stay, and directs Man-duk to give it instead. Gae Tae-jong-mu and Man-duk join the others in escaping. The rope Jong-mu is holding snaps as they climb on board the ship, and she nearly falls. Man-duk reaches out, and begs her to hold on, but she's already too weak due to her injuries. As General Stevens instructs the captain to start the engine, she lets go. The cadres are no longer alive. Only Sung-pil and Ha Ryan remain. North Korean troops are closing in. Later, Sung-pil rises to shoot at those approaching, but is killed after only one shot. Ha Ryan pulls the pin on the grenade he's holding, and throws it at the nearby box of explosives. The massive explosion also kills the North Korean soldiers who were closing in. Myung-jun takes the fall, as a result of the battle's failure in Jangsari, and the number of student soldiers killed. Maggie is taken aback when General Stevens informs her of the decision. She promises to make sure the rest of the world learns what happened in Korea, but General Stevens reminds her that everything done in Korea was done to safeguard the American way of life. An elderly Man-duk returns to Jangsari Beach, screaming out for his lost pals, and reminiscing everything that happened while they were there. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.